Hey guys, thanks for jumping in and checking out our base running video. We're excited to bring Attacking the Bases, Grizzlies on the Hunt, this compilation of what we're doing here at Georgia Gwinnett College within our base running plan, and bring it to you. Hopefully you can bring it into your program, you gain some value from watching this. A couple things we want to kick off when you're thinking about how to implement a base running system. We think there's priorities we need to follow in terms of answering these questions as a coach. That way it'll determine how you go about putting in this system, then obviously how you're going to communicate that within your group. It first starts with, where does this fit into your offense? You've got to ask the question, if it's about scoring runs, how will base running help us through that process? I think the more you define that, the more it becomes clear. In our program here at GGC, we run a triple B offense: barrels, bases, and bunts. It matters to us that our guys swing with intent. We try to hit the ball hard every time. Bases plays an integral piece. We want to be a great base running team, not just in stealing bases, but also going first to third, scoring from second, making great reads off the bat. And bunts play a role in terms of short game pressure, but also bridging the gap, eliminating double plays. Second priority I think we need to pay attention to is it's all in the details. Our system here at GGC, there's a lot of details we pay attention to, we teach, and so it comes down to, how are you going to approach leads? How are you going to battle for inches on the bases? And ultimately it comes down to care level. Your players have to care about the details as you approach teaching the system and then implementing it inside the game. The last piece comes down to, how can we as coaches build a structure that gives our players freedom within it to go attack the game? I think it's important we look at ourselves as coaches as simply guardrails on the highway, and we promote our players to be the ones driving the car. Again, we want our guys to go attack opposing pitchers. We want them to think about attacking an opposing defense, attacking a catcher behind the plate. So I think you have to have structure, but also freedom within it to make decisions, to move to a different lead, because in all reality, it is about our players playing the game. So how can our structure and our system allow them to go attacking on a daily basis? Now, we're going to flash up some plays here on screen. You can see we could spend a lot of time talking about a lot of different plays from the base running perspective, and certainly all these provide value. Inside this system, we're going to spend more of our time talking about leads as we approach first, second, and third. We're going to talk about out rules at each base. We're going to talk about how to pick pitchers apart, find those tendencies, and ultimately create a plan that gives your players confidence not only in attacking the bases, but certainly looking to make it a part of a run-scoring machine, which we feel like we're building here at Georgia Gwinnett. As we approach the end of the video, guys, if you have questions, always feel free to reach out to us. Not every answer is going to be inside this video. We feel like it's going to give you a structure to work with. If we can help you out in any way, please let us know.
Now, it's always a beautiful day at the ballpark here in Lawrenceville, and we chose specific players from inside our program that'll cover the entire spectrum of speed, from 6'5" runners all the way up to 7'3" runners, but also guys that have freedom to run inside our program. It's about building confidence from the speedy guys all the way into your slow twitch, bigger, middle of the order type hitters. This is a system for everybody. And kicking off this base running conversation, let's talk about running from home plate to first base. Now, these are standards inside most every program. Hard 90s, straight line runners even past the bag. We want to hit the front part of the base. In our program, a little bit different. We break down, we look right, we then look left. Well, we feel like, again, looking right, we check for the overthrow, but we want our players looking left. Now, what that does is two things. If there is an opportunity where second base is unoccupied, our guys are ready for it. What we also come to find out is that having them look right and look left has kept them running on a straight line down to first base. We know players like to veer off to the right side. This keeps them in a straight line, always looking for the next opportunity to go attack second base. Now we're moving into turns at first base, straight singles, doubles out of the box. We help our players eliminate question mark turns at each bag, instead opting for more of a gradual fade into the turn. This will help keep them at top speed, also promotes athleticism in their moves. We talk about the right foot always hitting the inside corner if we can. Get our left shoulder lean into that turn. That's going to allow their body to realign and get more in a straight line. We also emphasize for players head snaps back to the middle of the field. The head snap, as you see as we slow this down, is going to allow our player to get his shoulders to come with that, his hips to come with it, and we feel like the feet are just right there to follow. Creating a tight turn allows our players to make an aggressive move, especially on singles to the outfield. They can make a more aggressive turn, maybe create some pressure and force an error in the outfield. Now, one point of emphasis inside of our fall training is we'll paint our bases. We paint the front half for that home to first run. We paint that green. We also like to paint the inside corners of every single base around our infield, reemphasizing to our players, we want to focus on hitting that inside corner, never working towards the middle of the bag, instead staying as efficient as we can on the inside corners. As we move into talking through leads on the bases, there are a few points that we feel like need to be addressed and discussed as you start to detail out your plan. Your leads on the bases should always give you an idea of where you're at on the field. We feel like distance and inches matter when you're on the baseball field, especially when you go on the road. At home, you'll start to take your leads and know where you're at relative to the cuts on your particular home field. But when you go on the road, you need to be able to take the same steps and put yourself in a similar position to run. We feel like failing to plan is planning to fail. Again, when you're thinking through why you're going to take a lead a certain way, let that why lead what you teach. I think with our players, they start to understand the why behind what we're doing. We feel like that really heightens the care level inside our plan. And also, the key to success, we feel like, is no matter where you're at on the field, first, second, or third, the pitcher cannot pick you off. That confidence level really leads our guys through understanding, embracing, and owning this system. Now, diving in over at first base, we feel like it's incredibly important early in the fall to bring the paint striper out to the dirt, show your guys what these distances look like on their field. And again, relative to teaching these leads, they're going to need to know where they're at on the field. Show them underneath their feet. They'll see this grid and know exactly where their feet are relative to their lead. You can see by the diagram, 6 feet, 9 feet, 12 feet, moving out to 15 feet. These numbers will come back as we talk through the leads that we're going to take here at first base. Now we get into the specifics of the leads that we're going to take from first base in our program. We have an old school lead, just like most programs, very basic lead working off the base. We have a new school lead. This is more of your momentum lead, starting short, working into a standard lead, and then a wildcat lead, an open stance lead, 6 to 8 feet. When we get into our old school leads, it's going to be a basic right, left, right, shuffle, settle. That's going to get us to 9 feet. Then we have an opportunity there to evaluate the pitcher, evaluate the catcher, but also extend into 12 feet. And if we see a curveball grip, or again, the guy shows he has a bad pickoff move, we can then have the freedom to move out to 15 feet. You can see as our players rep this out, right, left, right, shuffle, settle, gets them consistently with 9 feet underneath them. They can extend to 12 and also have the ability to extend to 15. A curveball grip, bad pickoff move. We give our guys the freedom to extend that lead and cut down the distance to second base. You can see the ease at which they get out to this 9-foot lead. Hands on knees, very relaxed, and let their feet work underneath them into a great steal jump. Working into our new school leads, starting at a shorter distance and working our shuffle into a standard lead. Our feet staying close to the ground. We like to work on our eyes staying on the same plane. You can see our guys as they work off the bag here at their 6-foot mark. They're just going to work their shuffle, and as they land, they're going to be between 12 and 15 feet. Again, working to create momentum underneath their feet. That way, when the pitcher brings his leg up to pitch, we've got momentum. We can get our body in motion, hopefully keep it in motion as we work to steal second base. Heading down to the ground level here, you can see our guys come off the bag to their 6-foot mark, very relaxed, but watch how they stay on the same plane. They work to keep their feet close to the ground, keeping that shuffle very contained, very controlled, and allowing themselves to gain momentum into that steal jump. Again, we probably have some type of UCLA count, some type of tip on the pitcher, allowing us to anticipate putting our body in motion. When we see that tip go off, we're able to stay in motion and work to steal second base. And finally, we move into our wildcat leads. Again, starting at a short distance, 6 to 8 feet, but our feet will be planted, ready to go. Our chest will actually be squared to the 5-6 hole. You can adjust accordingly depending on your athlete. The idea is to sink into our legs. We can reach our top speed quicker coming out of this wildcat lead. So as you see our players work off the base, they're going to be between that 6 and 9-foot marks that we put out on the field. They set their body, they set their chest. It's going to look a little scary in terms of their chest being anchored towards the 5-6 hole. What we found is our guys reach top speed a lot faster, allowing them to gain the same speed they would out of an old school lead or a new school lead. But again, their body is already set. Hips are open. They're able to get their left foot in motion, reach top speed faster than maybe they would out of an old school or even a new school jump. And if we're working on leads and we're working on never getting picked off, you have to spend time getting back to first base. In old school and new school, it's going to look the same. Our chest will be square to first base. Whether we dive or standing up, right hand and right foot will work back. Wildcat, our chest will stay square to shortstop, and it's a left-right left move. So you see our guys here working at every various lead. Wildcat in the back, new school in the middle, old school in the front. You see the front two look the same. And the Wildcat, his chest will stay square to shortstop. Going back through old school leads, they'll return right foot on the bag, chest will be back towards first base. This will be the same for new school and old school in terms of returning with the right foot, chest back to the bag. And as our guys work into Wildcat, again, an open stance lead, feet settled, working to get a still jump out of that. We pick, it's a left, right, left move back to the bag, chest stays square to the shortstop. This one takes time gaining confidence that you still cannot be picked off working backwards towards the bag. But again, making it simple, a left, right, left move puts them back on the base. If you're gonna spend time on getting back, you gotta spend time on the overthrow. And we transition into that for our players, helping them see that whether we're in old school, a pitcher comes back, we see that play, we can plant our right foot and move towards second base. You've also got to spend time moving into the Wildcat lead, helping our guys see a left, right, left back, looking over their shoulder, left shoulder, right shoulder. They can still push off the base and move towards second base. Takes time, takes effort, helping our guys gain confidence they can be athletic inside this move. When we're working through gaining confidence inside these still jumps, a couple drills we really like. One is back knee down. We go out to an old school lead, out to 12 feet. We drop our back knee down, and what this does is it gets our guys sunk into the ground. Now they have to figure out how to explode and create momentum when one of their legs has been taken away from them. So they'll drive off their backside, really digging their right foot in. You can see as these guys work through this, old school lead out to 9, extend to 12, back knee down on the ground, and work to explode out of that stance. We also like using falling starts, and this is another drill that we really like to give our guys, creating some type of platform to come off of, 12 to 18 inches in height, and it helps our guys learn how to land in a position that's going to allow them to sprint. So you can tell his body starts to get organized as they come down off this height, allowing their feet to get in place, their body in motion, and how can they move their energy in a straight line as fast as they can as they're falling. This is a great drill to promote athleticism and help your guys get their bodies organized to sprint. As we open up running tips at first base, one of the main ones that will come up throughout each game will be UCLA counts. You could also count them out 1, 2, 3, 4. What we're focused on here is once the pitcher comes set, what is the pace until his foot moves to pitch? You start to count that out, U, C, L, A. Make sure you're counting the hyphen in between those. What we got to guard against with our players is their heart rate may dictate that pace. We've got to make sure in your program it is a consistent count. That way everything is trained and communicated accordingly. You can see inside this set, our guys are working on the half count before the 3, waiting for the 2.5. That way when they land at 12, 13 feet, they're in motion to see that left foot come up, and they should be in rhythm to work until their still jump. Working on this works great inside of a new school lead. You can also approach it inside of your other leads, depending on the comfort level. Here we are in old school, new school, and Wildcat in the back. And again, trying to link these guys up so when they make their move, they're all inside of the same UCLA count. Here we are showing a old school in the front, new school in the back. You'll see the new school jump land directly in tune with the old school jump on the same count. They should be in motion, ready to steal the base. The beauty of the UCLA count is it doesn't just hold itself to right-handed pitchers. You'll find the more you pay attention, left-handed pitchers also fall into UCLA count, which we'll talk about here in a little bit, but it gives you the opportunity to focus on a count, them being in a rhythm, whether it's, again, catching a breath or feeling themselves get into that set position. We're going to hold that count, wait for it, hunt it, anticipate it, and look to get a great steal jump off of it. Our second tip over at first base comes back to front shoulder moves. What we're working on here is really taking advantage of a right-handed pitcher that has unclear vision of the runner over his left shoulder. What we'll see is that pitcher needs to open his front shoulder just a little bit to see the runner, see first base, and see what's happening over there. What we know to be true about that pitcher, in order to get back in line to throw to the plate, he's gonna have to move that front shoulder, get back in line, then raise his front leg to pitch to the plate. We're gonna anticipate that move and look to explode into that steal jump. Again, once you've identified that tip, you can use this inside of every lead. You see us here in old school, new school, and wildcat. We're all hunting that front shoulder to move, anticipating it happening. And when it does, we're able to get a steal jump off of it. Looking for the guy that really wants to look over his shoulder. When he does that, his shoulders have no choice but to start to open, reminding ourselves he has to come back to set to work back to the plate. We also feel like bringing up tips like this to our players starts a conversation in our dugout. We start to have our players really hunting, identifying specific moves inside of the pitcher on the mound, and giving our players something to go hunt once they do get on the bases. The next tip we're looking for over at first base might be back shoulder moves. You're going to find a pitcher that wants to gather into his backside before moving to the plate, trying to recruit power from other places by creating tilt in his shoulders. Again, if we anticipate that move inside of all our leads, we can really explode into a steal jump. So the movement with the back shoulder, here we are in old school, new school, wildcat leads, hunting the back shoulder move. Once he comes set, finds the plate, we're going to see that dip in the back shoulder. Again, the pitcher trying to create tilt, and that move gives us the indicator, the thumbs up. We can make a great steal jump off of that move. And the last running tip over at first base is a guy that goes chin up to pitch. It's a pitcher that when he looks over to first base, he'll rest his chin on his shoulder. That way he can see the runner. Everything begins to slow down, but then he must raise his chin up to find the plate, and usually that triggers his release to go pitch. They follow this scripted move before to pitch, and again, if we're locked in to focus on that, we're able to get a great steal jump, moving ourselves in the direction towards second base before he's really delivered the pitch to the plate. You see our guys in our standard leads, chin up to pitch, and we're hunting that, anticipating that move. Once it happens, we really feel like our guys can take advantage of it. Again, the conversation in the dugout comes back to this will be your tip that you can hunt so you can get a great steal jump heading to second. We also have tips as well when we're working against left-handed pitchers over at first base. As we mentioned earlier, they do fall at times into UCLA counts. It is something we should be watching for. When we see it, they come set. They're not acknowledging the runner. We can run inside those counts. Also, front foot moves with left-handed pitchers. You'll start to see the toe come up where you can see the heel of the shoe. Generally, that means they're leaning back into their stance so they can pick towards first base. And as we start to see toe down, they'll be pitching to home plate. Also, we're focusing on what might be happening with the back shoulder. We start to see too much tilt or turn of those shoulders. It could be a key indicator that they're going to be picking over to first base. From our dugout, from the first base coaching box, we're locking into the shoulder movement. That way we start to build a consistent profile of what this guy does when he pitches versus when he's looking to pick. With our work being done at first base, it's time to move up 90 feet and head out to second base. You can tell we brought the striper back out to the dirt, laying out a grid for our players in terms of how we identify our steps into our leads and our jumps at second base. What a great opportunity to show them exactly where they're at relative to that position and where we're trying to go inside those leads and those jumps. As we lay out the grid here, you start to see if we take our steps off, we should be at the first line at 15 feet. That's a great place to start from. Evaluating the pitcher, evaluating the catcher. And with our moves, as we're working towards third base, we want to start to get out to 21 feet. 21 feet being the back line. That's going to be a place that if we find ourselves at or beyond, that should be a safe place for us to work to steal third base. Opening up on leads at second base, we categorize these into two very specific groups. 0 or 1 out leads for us. We're going to take 7 casual steps straight off the base, getting us out to about 15 feet. Our opportunity there to evaluate the field, locking on the pitcher, the catcher, see if we can find anything that's going to help us run. And we work to extend to 18 at a minimum, a great place to work a steal or a secondary from. Or we see a bad pick move where there's no threat or hold behind us, we can work to extend to 21 feet inside of our 0 to 1 out leads. You can see as our players start to work off the bag here, we talk about strolls across campus, very casual steps. 7 steps squares us up right with 15 feet underneath us. And as the pitcher comes set, we begin to work, extending our way towards third base in a straight line off the base, trying to get out to 18 into 21 feet. We feel like this is incredibly important to be calm at second base. We're in scoring position, but we also like the straight line moves. A lot of programs may look at this a little bit differently. We feel like we want to be west to east runners. Starting in the west, we want to work hard to get in a straight line and work our way east towards third base as fast as we can. Difference becomes we get to 2 outs. We're going to take 2 steps back, then take our 7 steps off, getting us out to 15 feet, extending again to 18 to 21. But we want to maintain that depth that we created with our 2 steps back so we can create a very good fade into a turn at third base and work to score from second. So you see our players take their 2 steps off the back of the base, work out to 15 feet, and then extend into 18 to 21. Once again, once the ball's put in play there with 2 outs, we're going to have a great angle to really cut the corner inside of third base. And as we take a lot of pride in working at scoring from second base, we feel like, especially with 2 outs, we're going to be able to put pressure on the opposing defense by taking these 2 steps back and creating that depth. Opening up out rules while we're at second base, we categorize these into 2 very simple categories for our players. With 0 outs, our mantra, be smart. What that means to our players is to think tag before we ever think score, especially on fly balls to the outfield. We'll make great reads off the bat on line drives and certainly ground balls. With 0 outs, we're already in scoring position. We need to make sure we make a smart read and we can get off the bag with time to get back and tag easily. Making that read off the bat, you see our players as they work here. They're going to replicate a fly ball into the outfield, and you'll see how they work. They will think tag before they think about score. They can work with the ball in the air, can start to get their feet underneath them. They're going to find the baseball. They want to make sure, and I want to get back, think tag so I can get to third base. Again, sacrificing that out, we're going to create movement from that out and get ourselves into third base. As we move into 1-out reads, we want to change the language in our head to come back to be aggressive. With 1 out, now our chances of scoring have decreased by an out. We want to get into a be aggressive mindset. Our players, our program, think score before you think tag. We're going to work to get off as far as we can without being thrown out and tag when appropriate. We always go back to when the odds are in your favor for the play in front of you, go back and tag. But with 1 out, we want to maintain that aggressive move. You see as our players work off the bag here with 1 out, they're working on that front line out to 15 feet, working to extend to 18 to 21, replicating a fly ball in the outfield. They're going to see that ball off the bat, and they're going to think, how far can I get off here without being thrown out? When they have time, they can work back to the bag, deep into the outfield gaps, and they can tag on that play. So let's open up steal jumps at second base, and what we're locking into from the right-handed pitcher and the left-handed pitcher starts to identify their looks back at the runner. Most are going to fall into 0, 1, 2, or 3 looks. We try to find some type of rhythm, also some type of consistency where they continually pitch off of 2 looks, 1 look, or some variation of those. What we also remind our players is that as they start to move back to home plate, when their eyes reach third base, they have left the runner. We call that the halfway point. That's where the mind switch happens when we're looking at a runner and we start to come back to find the plate. We want to make sure that when we get that pitcher's attention focused on us as a runner, we want to make sure we calm him down. We freeze our steps. Sometimes we even give a lean back to second base just to make sure he knows we're not a threat to him. And as we get back to the halfway point, we want to start to begin our shuffle into our steal jump, but constantly keeping our eyes on the pitcher. So you see our runners work through this here, working off the look. As we look back at the runner, they'll freeze their steps, maybe even lean. But as we begin to get to that halfway point and certainly pick up home plate, we're going to start that move, getting our feet in motion into that steal jump, but working to keep our eyes on the pitcher as long as we can. Another drill that just takes time, it takes feel, It takes a lot of reps for your players to begin to feel very comfortable out there working into their steal jumps off the pitcher on the mound. The next category we start to identify these pitchers, both again right-handed and left-handed, comes back to the big breath before they pitch. What we're locked into here on the bases and also from the dugout, we're noticing the shoulders and the chest movement. Is there some type of breath that identifies to us as a runner, this is when I'm starting to begin my pitch to the plate? It triggers his body to get in motion and get the arm going. We want to shuffle into our steal jump inside of this move as well, keeping our eyes on the pitcher. You see our runners as we work here, still working off of looks. We're anticipating that big breath. We've identified that's the tip that we can run on. You start to ignore looks and you're just looking for shoulder and chest movement, waiting for the big breath, triggering us to steal third base. Just like at first base, if you're going to spend time stealing, you've got to spend time getting back. Eliminating the pick creates confidence within your runners, so we're prepared to attack a right-handed or a left-handed quick pick, shortstop or second base crashing into the bag. We're going to make sure we bring our chest back to second base, our right hand or a right foot always reaching for the back corner. So as a runner, if we're focused on looks, we got to make sure we start to identify what changes in that pitcher's delivery when he goes to the inside move. Sometimes you'll notice a change in posture where the pitcher is prepared to go to the plate. He may be a little hunkered down in his stance. For the inside move, he knows he's got to get his front leg up and over, so maybe they stand a little bit taller. You also will see at times unordinary glove movement. The glove seems to work higher than normal, and we start to pay attention to that. We'll know we're getting into an inside move. We want to still shuffle into our steal jump, but keeping our eyes on the pitcher. And we know that if we do inside move, it will be a foot race back to the bag between us and the middle infielders. We got to trust our athleticism and our jump to know that we can always work to get back to the bag. But again, unordinary glove movement, sometimes a posture change. We start to anticipate, the bells go off. This could be an inside move. Our guys are ready for it. We see it happen. It's a foot race back to second base. Here we are at the last 90 feet before we get back to home plate. Very important inside of third base training that we have our guys locked into what our steps look like. Our reads off the bat have to be incredibly important. Knowing our out rules, knowing how to work our leads. We want to make sure we spend a lot of time over here at third base. You can tell by the diagram here, we've got a line that works right down the foul line. What that is working 2 steps up to the line. That giving our players this specific distance. We want to see their toes as they work into the play. The first line being 15 feet. Again, as we work off the bag, we want to get out to that 15-foot mark, which then allows us to work our steps right, left, right into 21 feet. That being a max lead for us. At 21 feet, we should be able to make a great read, especially on down angle where we know we can score, but also enough distance we know we can work back and tag. When talking about our leads at third base, it's really determined by the distance off the bag of the third baseman. We feel like if we're the same distance, if there is a pick play or a back pick, it's simply a foot race back to the bag on those picks. You can see as our players work here, our third baseman will continue to move in. Our runner starts to creep back towards the bag. And as our third baseman begins to work back into the 6 hole, you're going to see our runner begin to extend his lead. When we get to third base, that's the first thing we want our guys to notice. Where's the third baseman playing? That should let us start to identify what our distance might be off the base. Simply put, with 0 or 2 outs, we want to work up to the line 2 inches into foul territory. Why that's important for us, as you can tell at second base and first base as well, we like straight line runners. We feel like A to B when it comes to bases cuts down inches. So as we work our angle, we want to get back into 2 inches in foul territory. Foul ball comes down at us, we'll still be in foul territory. We want to work out to 15 feet. That's going to give us a great place to work from at a minimum. Working right, left, right. As the ball enters the hitting zone, we want our right foot to be down at 21 feet. We feel like it's all about the right foot when you're talking about leads at third base. And as the play starts to wind down, we want to work back 2 inches in fair territory, knowing that there is a back pick. We can create more distance inside the foul line. You see as our player works into his right foot and then works back down the foul line on a play with no action. Our next player steps up, works out to 15 feet, Ball enters the hitting zone, right, left, right, and we work back in through fair territory. These reads at third base we feel are incredibly important. Thinking back on all line drives, we want to make sure our players have a mentality that in line drive moments, at third base particularly, we want to work back. Some programs teach freeze. We want our guys to have action underneath their feet and think back on a line drive. We think that's incredibly important. We also have two real specific reads, a see it through read, which is a very basic read, giving our runner the mentality to see the ball through the infield before we go to score. A way to control your runners, a way to slow them down, and a way to give them a visual to make sure that we score this run. Generally, this is with 0 outs, making sure we see the ball through, or with infield in, we want to make sure we do that as well. We also have the down angle read. If a ball is hit to the shortstop, the second base, or the first baseman, we feel like if our right foot is down and we're in a down angle read, at that point, it's beat the baseball. The ball's hit back to the pitcher, and we find ourselves hung out to dry in the middle with our right foot down. We want to make sure we make him throw to the plate, and then at that point, expect a rundown to happen. We'll show the third base read here in a second. Here we are again on ground balls with down angle reads. Right foot enters the hitting zone. We're anticipating that thing down on the ground. When it happens, we're able to really pick our feet up and get into top speed faster than we would if we weren't anticipating that down angle. And with the ground ball at third base, it's very important when we are in down angle reads and the ball comes at us towards the third baseman, we've got to make sure we get inside the baseline and run towards home plate in fair territory. That takes away his throwing lane and hopefully ensures us that we can be safe there at home plate on that down angle read. Working on our tags here at third base, we're going to stay in a mentality thinking back on all line drives. Certainly that leads us towards fly balls as well, being ready for those. Footwork around the bag looks a lot like we would tag at other bases. Foot closest to the baseball, we're going to put that one back on the base. It opens up our body. We have now vision of the play. We can see the catch. Big coaching point inside our program, push down on the base before you go. This is a player-driven read here. They know their limits. For instance, this ball out to center field. Our player goes back, foot closest to the baseball. He knows his speed and knows he can tag up on a play like this. Here's an example of one down the left field line, down in foul territory, works back to the base, foot closest to the bag, opens his vision, push and go. Straight line runners all the way through home play as we're tagging from third base. Now, in general, our running routes around the bases come back to one thought. If we take tighter turns, it will become less steps. Focusing on our right foot always hitting the inside corner, developing that comfortability to bring our left shoulder lean into that turn. A great coaching cue to use with your players is, can they, on their route towards first base or their route scoring from second, can they keep their feet inside the dirt path in both those plays? As you can see from the diagram here, it's just taking that circle that we might normally take around the bases, and can we continue to pinch those turns in? The tighter we get, the more straight line we get. We know we can't be perfect. We certainly know we can't hit each base and button hook and turn on a dime, but the tighter we can make those turns, you start to decrease the amount of steps. Over time, decreasing the amount of steps, but also training to keep your speed, we feel like it's going to make our team a better base running club. As we mentioned earlier in the video, we also talk about head snaps back into the middle of the field. We feel like if a player approaches each base and begins to snap their head back to the mound, that's going to give them the opportunity for their head to lead their shoulders, which will lead their chest, which will lead their hips, and ultimately their feet, to allow themselves to recorrect their body and get into a straight line. A drill that we love to do with our players to help emphasize these head snaps. We separate our players into 3 different groups. One group starts halfway between home and first, the other halfway between first and second, and the third group halfway between second and third. A coach stands on the mound, and as the players begin to turn at each base, sprinting through the bag, a coach simply holds up a number in the air, and if the player head snaps at each base, they should be able to identify that number, but also maintaining their top speed through that turn. Over time, your players will begin gaining confidence, not only in that head snap, but also the left shoulder lean, creating those straight lines as they work towards the base in front of them. We're excited to open up and talk about our base running cycles. We feel like this is one of the best drills that we bring to our team when we introduce a new base running cycle. It's a short, quick drill that we can use inside our training plan, and it can touch on so many various aspects inside of base running. It starts with separating your players evenly throughout 5 separate stations. The stations always stay the same. You'll always have a group in the left-handed batter's box. They're going to be hitting straight singles through first base. The right-handed batter's box, the second station, they're always hitting a double out of the box, getting all the way to second base. Your third station will always start at first base. They're going to be going first to third on every play. Your fourth group starting at second base, they're going to score all the way to home plate and replace themselves in the left-handed batter's box. And the group at third base, your fifth station, they'll always work a play, score at home plate, and then replace the right-handed batter's box. All the players are going to move at once. A pitcher or a coach signifies a throw of the plate. All players move off of that throw. When every player makes their way through all 5 stations, that particular cycle is complete, and you can get creative. There's endless options in terms of allowing your players to visualize as many different situations as you can. What you'll see inside our video from the left-handed batter's box, once again, hitting a straight single through first base, breakdown steps, look right, look left. Second station from the right-handed batter's box, they're going to be hitting a double out of the box, getting to second base. Third station, our runner at first base is going to see a flare over the first baseman that'll land in shallow right field that we feel like he can move up and go first to third. Your fourth station will be a runner at second base, visualizing a ground ball that'll kick off the third baseman. They can run right in front of that play and score. And your fifth station runner at third base is going to see a deep fly ball to center field, and we're going to tag and score on that play. So as we set the field up, you see the pitcher on the mound, all players at their positions moving at the same time. It's incredibly important they move together. That way, the timing of the cycle works out perfectly. We should all be at our next stop at roughly the same time. Next player steps up off the pitcher, and you're into your next rep. As we go step by step through this, here's our 2 guys starting at home plate. The left-handed batter's box is going to run their straight single through the bag, breakdown, look right, look left. You're going to see the player in the right-handed batter's box here working on a double. He's going to clip the bag almost right after the straight single hits first base and continues on to second base. Our runner at first base, again, seeing the flare over the first baseman, he's going to move up and go from first to third. Our runner at second base is going to see a ground ball that will kick off the third baseman, and he's going to score on that play. Once he sees it kicks, creating a hard angle in towards home plate. And our runner at third base is going to visualize a fly ball to deep center field. He's going to head back to third base, and he's going to score with the runner from second base coming in right behind him. We love our base running cycles. We hope you bring them to your training plan. We feel like it's a great way to get a lot of work in a short amount of time. In our program, we feel like a staple of a great base running team is the ability to go first to third. We spend time on it inside our training, making sure our guys know how to create great reads off the bat. We break it down very simply. Grass, dirt, grass reads. This is ball off the bat that hits grass, then hits dirt, then hits grass. We feel like if a ball's hit into the outfield and we're at first base, when we see grass, dirt, grass, we should be able to 100% of the time make that read. Even on plays to left field, if we make the right read off the bat, we should be safe 100% of the time on those particular reads. You then move up to dirt, grass reads. Ball off the bat, it hits dirt, then moves into the grass into the outfield. We feel like if it's right at the outfielder, that is a 50-50 read. Comes down to your read off the bat, your jump into that play. If he moves into the gap or he moves into the lines, we feel like that is a 100% read, and we should look to advance to third base. And then lastly, you have grass reads. This is where the baseball moves right at the outfielder hitting bat into the outfield grass. We feel like if that play is right at the outfielder, we should check up at second base. But if he starts to move into the gaps or down the lines, we think we move back to a 50-50 opportunity there. Goes back to your read off the bat, goes back to how he moves in the outfield. Once again, trying to create a hard angle and a tight turn there at second base, giving ourselves the best opportunity with our read off the bat maintaining top speed, and advancing all the way to third base. Another staple of great base running teams is they score from second base. Once again, we go back, grass, dirt, grass reads. We feel like on plays into the outfield when we're at second base, if ball off the bat, it hits grass, dirt, and then grass, we should be 100% safe scoring on that. It does come down to your read off the bat, but once again, grass, dirt, grass, slowing the play into the outfielder's glove. We feel like our reads, we should be able to score. On dirt grass reads, ball off the bat hitting dirt, and then grass, we're back to a coin flip. It's 50-50, depends on our read. It also depends on the speed of the runner at that point. And lastly, our grass reads, ball off the bat, hits grass right to an outfielder. We check up at third base unless we see a bobble or unless we see the outfielder move into the gaps or once again, move down towards the foul lines. We feel like at that point, we can make a read at scoring from second base. A basic rule of thumb as a coach, scoring from second base, it's like going first to third. It comes down to the timing of the ball entering the outfielder's glove. If the ball gets into the outfielder's glove before the runner hits the base, we're going to make sure we hold up our runner on that play. Most outfielders on the high school and college level, if they have the baseball before our runner reaches the base, we feel like they should be able to throw us out. We're going to make a smart read and check up there at third base. But if the ball enters the glove after the runner hits the base, that's a 100% send. We're going to create pressure, force the outfielder to make a great throw, catcher make a catch and a tag. If we see our runner hit the base before the outfielder has the opportunity to field that baseball, we're going to go score in front of him on that play. It always comes down to reads off the bat. Incredibly important, creating opportunities for your players to get as many reads as they can so that they can make a decision before they ever have to rely on the coach to do so for them. Wrapping up this video, we want to offer some final thoughts as we start to bring this whole thing back together. It comes down for us to reps, reps, and more reps. The more live BP that your runners can see on a continual basis, the better they're going to be at getting better reads off the bat, starting to think instinctually instead of being always directed by coaches. We feel like the ownership should be inside the player group. We feel like live BP, that's where we go make our money. We try to create as many opportunities as we can for our players to get reads off the bat during live BP. Another thought is, what environment are you training in? We spend the majority of our fall helping our players realize our environment is failure-free. What that promotes within is that our players have the freedom to extend themselves, to push themselves, to get thrown out early on by 20 or 30 feet so they start to understand what their limits are. We feel like a failure-free environment promotes the best out of our players. Then I come back to, as coaches, can we be consistent with that? So even in season, our guys get thrown out. We don't break clipboards. We don't tip over buckets of balls. We go and have a conversation with our players. What did you see? What did you run on? Make sure next time you have the opportunity to run, think about these things. We feel like a failure-free and consistent environment promotes our players to have the confidence to go attack this, being a big piece of the puzzle for us offensively. We also feel like a final thought would be the threat of the run, the reputation of attacking the bases. That's what you want in the scouting report before the other team even shows up to your ballpark. We feel like if you're preparing for our running game before you guys get off the bus, it's 1-0 on the scoreboard before we ever thrown the first pitch. When you deliver a team to the game that has the threat of the run, the reputation of being aggressive, you're going to get a lot more runner calls from your first baseman. You're going to see a lot more fastballs from the pitcher on the mound, knowing that if they throw off speed, you're going to take that base. Everyone's on high alert, and when you have all those things together, you have the opportunity to see a whole lot of this.
First pitch swung on, and Kate's going to give this one a ride all the way to left center field. Rolling going back, and it's out of here. The Grizzlies bust out the power here in the fourth. Fingers count still for Howell, trying to drive in this run and tie this ball game up. Fastball turned around, this one shot to left. Back goes Gary. Park may not be able to hold this one, and it does not. 3-0 pitch. There's a swing and a high fly ball to deep left field. That ball is out of here. A game-winning home run. 1-2. It's one on. Barnes hits this one well. This could be the TKO. Deep fly ball to left. Back goes Demon, and it is indeed. And played. Sewell thought about running, then held up. Meanwhile, Gabe Howell hits one down the left field line, and it's out of here! I'm going to call my own shot here. Miles Smith, line drive down the right. Harvey's on the move. Off and swinging is Howell. He smashes this one. York delivers in here. Howell as he launches this one to left. Swing it, fastballs in the zone. Raking ball. Barnes goes the other way with it. Turned on this one. Morris does indeed do it. Delivers one to Collins Hill Road. Over the fence, over the trees, and a one-hop the two-lane highway. Livingston Morris, a two-run shot here in the 8th inning as the Grizzlies take a commanding 6-3 lead. And the Grizzlies are feeling it here. A chest-pounding moment for Livingston Morris. He was given one job, stepped up to the plate, and let it fly high.
Sending a huge thank you to all of you that checked out this base running video. We're honored to share it. We're grateful for the opportunity to communicate something that we feel like we've had success within our program, and we hope you can bring it to yours. It's all about challenging coaches, hopefully improving other programs as well, growing the game of baseball together. Here's our contact information. If we can help you out in any way, never hesitate to reach out. Our facilities are open. You can come check out a training session or come see a game. Connect with our coaching staff, connect with our players, get the real insight into what we're doing inside our Georgia Gwinnett College baseball program, and please let us know how we can continue to help. Thanks so much. God bless you and your program, and keep in mind, it's always a great day to be a Grizzly.